Hi Booktube, it's Amy. We'll read again today from the Private Papers of a Bankrupt Bookseller by Will Y. Darling. As a reminder, we are on page 139 of my edition, beginning with a section titled The Deadly Parallel and 3 Recommended Books. There used to be a feature in one of the newspapers called The Deadly Parallel, and this morning I was greatly reminded of it when reading the notices on the life of Arthur James Balfour following his death. The Reverend Mr. Warr, speaking in Edinburgh, is reported to have said, convinced as he was that he himself and his brethren of the human family were destined for an eternal fellowship with their Creator, the pursuit of justice, beauty, truth, and goodness was for him the supreme objective both of private and corporate life. So much for the Reverend Mr. Warr, but what did Arthur James Balfour himself write? I have it. If you will read on page 202 of A Treasury of English Prose in Constable's Miscellany series, you will find a quotation from Foundations of Belief. I am always particular rendering unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and I must point out that the quotation there made is by permission of Longman's Green and Coy. The extract occupies a full page, and it is a poignant summary in a short compass of the inscrutable tragedy of man. Here, though, is the deadly parallel which challenges the smooth certainty of the funeral oration. Man will go down into the pit, and all his thoughts will perish. Death itself, and love stronger than death, will be as though they had never been. The Archbishop of Canterbury, I see, was subtler and wiser. He said of Arthur James Balfour's position towards the Christian faith, I doubt not that at the end he would have said in his own way and with his own interpretation, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. The Archbishop speaks, if not with the tongues of angels, at least with the words of charity. The Treasury of English Prose is one of the best things I have to offer. It runs its course from Geoffrey Chaucer to George Santana, and there is in it nothing that is not superb. I can read it at any time and give thanks to Logan Purcell Smith, not only because it is a book to read, but a book to sell. The description of the response we call literature on page 210 is a perfect thing in words, and to have found and set so pricelessly a pearl as these 100 Words on Love by H.G. Wells deserves a peerage. There are 3 good anthologies of English prose I recommend. The Treasury of English Prose, Logan Purcell Smith, Constable, Oxford Book of English Prose, Arthur Quiller Couch, Oxford University Press, and Prose of Today, compiled by the English Association Longmans. And our next section title is Unfashionable Books Being What Might Be Called Bad Stock. It would be difficult to know what is bad stock for a bookseller. Here is the history of a book. The first stage is when it arrives, after much of Sunday Times and Observer heralding. It is almost hot from the printers, and if it is a great success, I may sell my 3 or maybe 6. I am encouraged. I believe the book is going to be the big book of the year. I buy another 6, and then comes the frost. I am left with them, strenuously practicing salesmanship. I sell on credit, maybe 1, maybe 2 more, but the 4 remain. What can I do with them? Their jackets, they have always wonderful jackets, coats of many colors, get rubbed and torn, and they languish. They become tired and weary. I lose taste of them. I ignore them. Some Monday I put them into the window. I expatiate to any who will listen on their claims to attention. They are worth buying, if only as a representing a phase, I plead. It avails nothing. I take them out of the window. I try a little longer with them on the counters, and then they are in the old shelves of the back shop, incurably defined bad stock. From thence they go to be pulped, or to someone who even buys at a lower price than I do, or they may remain till that sad day when I am no longer the bookseller and another makes an inventory of my stock. It is difficult to imagine, but it has to be faced. One day the sun will shine on a world in which I don't move about. It will shine instead on turf under which I lie resting in content. This shop, too, will hold another, and it is hard to think what he will say and think of my stock, especially my stock of unfashionable books. Unfashionable books are principally of the ephemeral political kind. Nisbets published a book, Eclipse or Empire, which was a huge success at one time, with a full-page advertisement in the Daily Mail, but it is dead now. I have 2 copies. The Eclipse has passed, and the Empire is still here. Yet a while, though, as the writer of this very work has pointed out, it is rather precarious. An earlier book on the same type was Arnold White's Efficiency in Empire, published by Methuen. It is in my collection of unfashionables for all its merits. Arnold White was one of those, with Lord Roberts and Robert Blanchford, who urged us to prepare for war. It is astonishing that More did not agree with them. War is a recurring decimator, and as we finished in 1918, we are due for another in 1930. The South African War closed in 1902. In 1914, 12 years later, Mars again commenced his bloody business. War books of the actual war are unfashionable. They don't wear well. On my shelves I have a faded copy of The Roll Call, which Hutcheson published for Arnold Bennett. A good enough book, but dead with me. I don't think Peter Jackson is much livelier, though I have not yet banished it yet from a shelf with a view in the front shop. It is being elbowed out, though, by the host of newcomers, which I can hardly keep out of my shop, so fast do they come. I have other oddments on the shelves, the last refuge of the unfashionable books. There is a biggish book called Bolshevist Russia, published by Stanley Paul and written by Etienne Antonelli. The price is 12 shillings, but I will take 2 shillings now. The dust wrapper, which still protects the maroon covers of the book, most effectively explains the purpose of the book. It was published in 1920, and with that date in mind, I can smile at the concluding sentence. Mr. Antonelli's conclusions are illuminating and hopeful. The idea of hope. It is the ingredient which enables the world to go on. Duncan Davies, who has bought many books, used to tell me how at first, when the world was created, it would not go. It remained stagnant, dead. The makers of worlds and men communed together and analyzed the problem. They added a new ingredient to hell's broth mixture, which men called a world, and since then it has spun unerringly, unfailing, unhaltingly through space. The new ingredient was hope. W. H. Mallock has a book among the despised and rejected. This is Life Worth Living? It is a painstaking, sincere, and very Victorian work which provoked a poem from the same title from the then poet laureate Alfred Austin. Who reads either authors nowadays? And yet there are many less worth while whose works I can sell easily. T. Werner Laurie have also, I see, a representative. The title stamps it as definitely of long ago, and yet how engaging it must have been to many. The book is by Mrs. Alfred Praga, and, oops, there we go, knocking the camera. The book is by Mrs. Alfred Praga and is entitled Love and £200 a Year. It is a genuinely valuable social document. It shows not how the poor live, but how the middle class, at the zenith of their power in Great Britain, sought to live. They planned an ample existence on £200 a year, with, of course, love. This is the most unfashionable book of all, for love has raised its price. A sonnet in the New Age, published about the same time, expresses the costliness of love. I have kept it for years, if only for its unique title and subject matter. Modern love sonnet. A door-to-door canvasser sings to his love. From door to door on foot I fare, each month the 4-bob sole I wear. My object is a thing to sell, a thing for well I must not tell. I sell it sometimes, often or not, I feel sometimes I'll chuck the lot. But then I know if you I'd hold, I must get hands each week on gold. To have you I must pay the price, and daily peddle this device. Yes, I who one time really thought love was a thing could not be bought. This is the fee then, that the task, it is worth while, dear love, I ask. I think that there ought to be more poems of the commonplace. This sonnet does express the conflict between economic necessity and romantic desire. It ought to be stated that, for it is a genuine problem, though perhaps now unfashionable. It has been told me that the young lovers come together now on the dole and are very happy to, but they were sterner stuff in 1913, when love would not raise an eyebrow below 200 a year. Problems of Reconstruction. There's a genuine antique. I have a copy, and beside it, Buckle's History of Civilization, which in a way is only right. It is an antique too. The well-meaning, hard-working young man who learned his first thinking from Buckle has gone. I must go one day to the working man's college and see who go there now. From what I hear, they are not the same. They are gone, sunk in the mud of matrimony or the deeper mud of the Somme in 1916, or of Ypres in 1917. Their ideas are unfashionable now. They believed in people who knew more than they did. They were willing to learn. They were teachable. They have left no descendants that I know of, or I would sell books, not only Buckle, but some of the other unfashionable books. And we will leave it at that for today. Our next section heading is titled Woman, a Wild Species, and that will be followed by Books for the Bedridden. We'll put our bookmark in and end the video.